Hello, welcome to Sounding Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm just going to talk about two books that I really enjoy. So these books are The Ghost Wolves duology by Alex Wells. So they came out in 2017 and 2018 respectively. The first is Hunger Makes the Wolf, and the second is Blood Binds the Pack. If you watched my August wrap-up, you might recall that I had recently read Blood Binds the Pack on vacation, like a couple weeks ago. I first read Hunger Makes the Wolf a couple of years ago. I got the book at a library sale. My library is amazing. There are 4 branches in my city, and every quarter they have book sales. I think this one was like $3, which is amazing. I ordered the second one off Amazon because I couldn't really find it anywhere else, so I'm very glad that I have them, and now they're some of my coveted books that I will never get rid of. Anyway, these books are sci-fi westerns, and they are so good. They seamlessly blend frontier elements with space travel, technology, and motorcycles, a smattering of elemental magic explained as a contamination, and workers' rights ideology. It's a lot of fun, and it's more complex than you'd expect from kind of a fun western. It's really good. So the setting is intriguing right from the start, and it's a big part of the story itself. The books are set on this colonized world controlled by a greedy and unscrupulous company called Transrift that controls the production sectors of the world by keeping them impoverished and almost like pre-industrial in their technology. They also control the wormhole aspects of space travel. So anyway, I'm not going to explain too much because learning about the world is pretty much a big part of the story, and it's so much fun. Every time you encounter something that seems inexplicable in the world, an explanation falls quite quickly in like kind of a scientific or pseudo-scientific fashion. So it definitely feels way more than it definitely feels more like a science fiction than a fantasy. So I would not consider these fantasies at all, even though there is a little bit of magic. I would definitely consider them more sci-fi westerns. So I loved the characters. Hob and Meg are 2 very different women who are strong in their own ways. I loved how Hob is a badass, takes no shit, tough as nails young woman that I tend to gravitate to in novels. But we're also given Meg, whom you initially believe is kind of a dumb weakling, but she quickly shows herself to be resourceful and determined. She really comes into her own in book 1, though both women evolve as the story grows. The second book doesn't have too much growth on their part, I'll admit, but it's just as interesting as the first and answers a lot of questions from book 1. In terms of side characters, there's a whole slew of really interesting dudes, basically. There's other women too, but the other main side characters I think are all men. There's Nick, Coyote, Shinji, Jerry and Frecky, and this guy called the Bone Collector, whom, he's fantastic. So these were all likable or at least understandable different dudes who change as the story progresses. Speaking of the Bone Collector specifically, while he featured more in book 2, Hobbs' trajectory with him was one of my favorite aspects of both novels, as their kind of odd and compelling relationship is fraught with the best kind of tension and shows why you should never hesitate in telling someone how you feel about them. That's all I'm going to say about that. In both novels, the antagonist is vague and not really present for most of it, but rather than ruin any tension or make the story any less harrowing, I felt it worked well, because the real enemy in the story is in fact the company. So the company as an entity is obviously who is controlling everything and making the antagonists who they are. So that being said, though, there is these people called the Weathermen, and they were very creepy, and they had this their lack of clear motivation was actually more interesting than if they'd had like a real goal. Their kind of plans run in tandem with Hobbs' story and later with the Bone Collectors in the second book. It's quite masterful, really, how we learn very little about the Weathermen, but what we do know strengthens the plot. And we learn about them as the story goes, just as Hobb does. So it's really mimetic in that factor, and I really enjoyed that part of it. It was nice not to have, as I said, like an overt antagonist that, it's just a fight at the end, that kind of thing. I mean, there are fights. There's lots of battles and gunfights and stuff. It's really fun. But I do like when we don't have, like, a good versus evil kind of story. I will add that while I loved both books, I thought book 1 needed a bit more backstory on Hobbs' part, and the second book takes a bit of more of a kind of reactionary approach than giving the characters full agency. A lot of the time they're just kind of, reacting to things that are happening to them rather than like driving them story themselves. But either way, I couldn't put either of these books down. If you enjoy harsh planets, worker uprisings, LGBTQ plus representation, strong female characters, magic derived from alien worlds, motorcycles, gunfights, corporate insidiousness, and a lovely prose that is a strange but enthralling mix of visceral and ethereal, you'll really like this. They're really fun. Again, Hunger Makes the Wolf and Blood Binds the Pack. They're great. And I just realized, like right before I went to film this, that these books were published by Angry Robot, and I'm laughing because I tend to do a review a lot of their books, and this is not intentional. I just happened to read this last week at I've had it actually for over a year. I just hadn't got around to reading it yet. So this, I'm not just an Angry Robot book reviewer, I promise. The next book I'm reviewing is Summer Suns, and that is definitely not an Angry Robot title. So there you go. There's some proof for you. So anyway, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you take a chance at these books if you come across them, because they're really fun. So thanks.